So basically, first things first. I kind of did this a little poorly with Ruby, unfortunately. What is your name? Because I do
Uh,
want to like possibly get that out there for everybody, if that's okay.
yeah, no, that's fine. My name is Christopher Ballard. I also go by Sprite Star Zero or just Sprite Star. And
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I'll just call you Sprite Star for this one, or Spar, or whatever I've been calling you for the most part. But that's I feel like it's important to just have an identity behind it there. The
Yeah, of course.
With Olympia, Olympia was the first actual character that I saw on Workshop getting started that made me think, holy shit, this isn't just going to be Mugen 2.0. Um, and I guess Malo had some degree of hype to it, but I didn't really. There was no build up or anticipation for me for Malo because he was already there. So Olympia's been that sort of that Smash character that you're really excited about that you know is coming eventually. For me, for a workshop, how did it feel to be kind of caught up in that initial bit of hype? Because I know it kind of took off for you.
It was it was pretty out there as far as like how that initial feeling was. Um, I made Olympia almost on the spot after I saw the trailer for the workshop, and I was like, "Cool, time to just make a character for this," because I just make characters for whatever I get interested in. It's just something I've done, and I just started piecing together just things that I've liked about Smash and things I like about like fighting games, and I wanted to capture the kind of like hype that I had when seeing Ryu and Ken and Terry Smash Brothers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that all comes from me being like a really big fan of like fighting games, particularly. Um, so I designed a character around that, and I kind of just like put that out there, expecting no one to really care.
Yeah,
Um, it was just kind of like it was literally just a passion project for me, and I wanted to see how far I could take it. So I just started coming up with moves and pestering different friend groups about like ideas and stuff like that, and then out of nowhere, she just blew up literally overnight for me. I actually do remember the morning after Olympia got traction, and like I had like damn near 100 notifications, which is unheard of for me at the time.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, and it just blew out of the water. So like as far as the feeling goes, it's pretty phenomenal. This is the most kind of like reaction I've gotten out of something I've made that was just by my design and not me
Yeah,
helping
and it
them.
just seemed, and it was almost on a whim that you decided to do this, and it's like, oh, people really like this. All right,
Yeah.
how do you capture lightning in a bottle again? That's not going to be the the other question after that. So you you woke up overnight. You had 100+ notifications, all these expectations. I know I was one of the people who messaged you on Discord saying, "Huh, "Man, I'm so hyped for Olympia that she's gonna be awesome." Um, that initial reaction, when did it actually set in that now you had people that could possibly be disappointed in this little whimsical project you had started?
I
Like,
honest
was there pressure at all, or?
To be completely honest, at first there was like a little bit of pressure, and I've had this kind of pressure before with different like projects I've worked on in the past,
Yeah.
and it really helped me adjust to that just for having that kind of like hindsight look to all that.
Hmm.
So like once I started seeing people like really getting into that like Olympia as a character and wanting to see her in action, and then like the thought of like, well, will people get disappointed? My like soon after it was like, fuck it, I'm gonna like it. Like it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah. No,
this at the
that's
end
a
of
good
the
mentality to have.
at the end of the day, Olympia was made with my ideals in mind. If someone doesn't like them, they don't like them. I can't really cater to everybody like that. But
Absolutely. The with that mindset, being able to say, I'm making this character for me. Fuck the haters, if there are any. I haven't really seen too many out there yet. The she's approaching release now. Like you're kind of in the final stretch here, right? You got a few like one move left to code or something. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, down special is, as the time of all this happening, down special is the only missing move. After that, it's just fine tuning and tweaking.
Yeah, and it's sick. How does it feel to be this close to done? I mean, I know there's kind of been a lull, I guess, in the hype around workshops than it was like in early September. How does it feel to kind of? I mean, that hype is about ready to kick back up. Like, now that you're prepared for it, how does that feel?
I am less worried about like the hype around Olympia's release, and more so the hype of me actually finishing a character.
So just you're ready for the personal gratification of being done.
Oh yeah, like I've always had like this worry that I wouldn't finish a character that I've made, because I've kind of fell on that before, whether it be like a personal project and then college kicks in, or I gotta work to pay bills and stuff like that. But like since Olympia, like I did all the animations for Olympia before I even like considered looking for a coder. Thankfully, I got two amazing dudes that helped me out with that. Shout outs to FlamingGaraco and OrangeKid, I think his name on Twitter. Yeah, shout outs to those two. They're the real.
Yeah, we'll include links to all the people in the credits for this in the YouTube description.
Yeah. I will say, without them, this would have taken a lot longer. But I'm just.
Yeah, you're confident you would have, got your way through it eventually. But now, since you had some help,
yeah, I'm really excited on how things will play out, and way more excited that I'm finishing something than the release of this character. I know this may sound kind of like anticlimactic, but this is really important to me, guys.
It makes total sense. Just being able to like prove it to yourself that you can start such a big hype project and then follow through on it. That's going to do a lot for your own confidence in whatever projects that you take going forward. You're like, no, I finished Olympia. Fuck this. I got this.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I've heard a lot of creators that kind of get swept up in after release is they're not really mentally prepared for the amount of work that's thereafter. Like there's the possibility of, this move just doesn't really work with our kit. There's all these different opinions coming at you from all over the place. And I don't expect that to happen with Olympia, but are you prepared for the balancing aspect of release? Is that something that you've really considered?
That neutral special is going to be a bitch to deal with. And that's mainly because it's so different from like her general playstyle, and it's kind of the point, because when you're using neutral special for Olympia stuff, you can do all the cool stuff without it. It's kind of just there, the mastery like theme of this character, I suppose.
So it's a tool that, as opposed to something that's really integral to use her properly. It's just something that oh yeah, she's a master of martial arts, but also she has a gun.
Yeah. But the whole point of the gem being like the middle part of all of her kit is it's a flex zone, to paraphrase in so few words. Like neutral special is used in such a way that if you can wrestle around with it and you can like master all the little nitpicks and all that stuff with it, you could do some crazy stuff with it. And this is coming from someone who has no like prior experience with like pro play and all that stuff. Like I've gotten my butt handed to me by a couple of people in the Rivals of Aether community that actually know how to play the game. So I know I'm not good, but that's the reason why Olympia is made the way that she is. As far as the looking forward towards balancing, I've seen the whole gauntlet. I've seen all the stuff Malo's gotten. I've seen firsthand all the stuff Ash has gotten.
Oh yeah, these characters have changed so much since launch, and I know like when you press that upload button, you have an idea of what this character is, and that might not be who they who they really are in a like how they're going to play in a few months. If
Yeah.
that detachment from what a character is when you press upload and what a character the community needs them to be a competitive character, is that something that you have that you feel negative towards or positive towards? Is there any how do you feel about that?
It's very dependent on what I get back. Um, I'm going to use two examples. One of which would be Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and the other example would be Overwatch. Now, two different game genres altogether, but balancing is the key thing. In Marvel vs. Capcom 3, there's some really busted characters, and they do some really crazy shit, and everyone loves them for it. But in Overwatch, there's one character that kinda does well with 5 other characters, and they're the bane of all existence. Like I know both sides of the coin, and it just depends on which side I'm on. Like if
That makes sense.
if someone comes to me in the comments or whatever and tells me that like Olympia is, oh, she's just way too busted, why did you give her this thing and that? And it's like, well, that's part of her kit. I can tweak it to make it easier, but I'm not gonna rework this character.
Yeah. It's like,
There's
where
only-
do you draw the line in a rework? It's like, would you ever go back and redo an animation?
I've done that plenty of times with Olympia. There's been a couple of animations that I've like straight up like chucked out the window.
Just threw out,
and,
yeah.
yeah,
I
and just
imagine
made
there's-
something completely different. Down special, the move that's last, actually had like 3 different iterations just on how the move was going to look, and I just did that for me. Like it just looked weird to me. And then there's other cases where one particular frame or something is weird, and I'm more than happy to fix that.
No. I think
I do
your
know how
perfectionism is well documented at this point.
Yeah, I do see how annoying it is where someone would make this character and then a bunch of people were like, reanimate the whole damn thing. It's like,
Yeah, so many people don't put you're just, that's all it is just a character. They don't associate the work, the hours that actually went into the creating the character.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the one thing that I'm personally against balance is how extreme everyone is about it. It's either this character is unplayable and should be broken, or this character is broken and should be unplayable. I want to try and keep Olympia at that like sleeper state the entire time, because
that's kind of where Ryu and Ken are at, actually, so that makes sense.
The Ryu, Ken, and I'm sure Terry after it, they're all fighting game characters, and the reason why people play fighting games so much, and I've heard this from so many different like outlets and stuff, is that there's always something new to find out.
Mm-hmm.
There's no set way to play a character. Like one pro player can have one way of playing Ryu, and then another character is just like fucking crazy with them and just like does like this weird unorthodox stuff with them, and just I want that for Olympia.
Yeah, you're speaking my language, man. Talking meta. That's when we. Well, that's dangerous. Getting into that, but Dos Rogers, it's either Dos or Dos. I don't know exactly how he pronounces it. I don't think I've ever heard it said. He speaks to your point on how you have to let a meta breathe for a little bit, and how you have to let. So Olympia, whenever she comes out, if she's busted, I incredibly urge you to just hold back a little bit on like heavily nerfing. I know the Kid Goku nerfs, whenever they found out that they were going to be in Heatwave 3, were completely premature in terms of and he just obliterated that character really, really quickly. And I know they've got their own flack, and they've come back, and Kid Goku is a relatively well-rounded character now. But it's so easy to just be like, to react and you just pull the trigger and just say, okay, now all of these people that are mad at me for X reasons are just going to go away. because almost universally, except in like really extreme cases, a character that seems overpowered, but it's in debate, has counterplay. It just hasn't been figured out yet.
Yeah.
With and I do want to get into the next question here. With Olympia, what would you say is the lowest point that you were at in development?
Getting started.
Just that moment where you sit down and you're like, oh shit, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah, like when I came up with the design of Olympia, I just wanted to like encapture what I liked about certain characters and put it into something that fits in the Rivals of Aether, while making it look that's new and fresh and hasn't been seen in the roster yet. But the first move and the only move I had in mind for Olympia when I made that design was Focus Attack, because I like doing Focus Attack in Smash Brothers, and I like doing it in like Street Fighter 4 and all that stuff. Trying to make a moveset that makes sense for Rivals of Aether and isn't just Ryu, but like mouse version, was by far the hardest thing I could have ever done, because Rivals of Aether is a very finicky game to try to like design around.
Mm-hmm. It's got a very different design philosophy than Smash Brothers.
Yeah, and from someone who's played a lot of Smash Brothers in his day, granted never competitively, like for real, but like I played a good bit, so I kind of have a general understanding. It's just that my play style isn't up. No, and Rivals is a really big like jump. Funnily enough, that was also like the same reason why I was turned off the Rivals of Aether so long ago. After someone named Toko introduced me to Rivals of Aether, and just like kicked my ass in it, and then he got a friend, which is also like an artist I looked up to, and he kicked my ass in it. It was like, all right, I guess this ain't the game for me. Fast forward like 2 to 3 years later, and now I'm designing a character for it, and like it's different. And getting those ideas down pat and having them work and having them be unique enough that it would fit was by far the hardest part. I can animate all day long.
Yeah. So like you didn't really have much of a pursued interest in Rivals until you decided to make Olympia, right? You had already kind of brushed the game aside, and when when Workshop came out, you said, "Oh, I want to make a character for a fighting game." Yeah. Is Rivals being a Smash-like more appealing? Like, did you ever try making like a Mugen character or anything like that?
I've done many attempts on trying to make Mugen characters. I've been in a couple of like quote unquote dev teams where I just design characters and stuff. And it's not to say that like Rivals of Aether per se turned me off to it. I just wasn't at a point in my life where I wanted to lab that game out more than Smash, because I was getting into Project M at that point, so I had to pick one or the other. Plus, I was playing on a fight stick when I was doing all that. So, believe me, there's a lot of culture shock in that situation, playing Rivals on a fight stick against pro players. Like, it's weird.
I don't envy you, let's put it that way.
But, I definitely have found, like, a couple of characters that I ended up liking. I went from hating Crag to, like, being like, this is an okay character. Like, actually, like, sitting down and understanding how to play the game and how the pros play them and all that stuff. It never really turned me off, but, like, definitely the workshop brought me back in. To quote Toko in a tweet that I did, because he asked me after all these years on, like, so did you just, like, pick up Rivals because of the workshop? Or what's going on? It's like, I came for the workshop, but I stayed for Aspa. Like, I love that character so much.
As is my roommate's main also, and it's let's say I hate you a little bit more now.
Oh, trust me, I'm not good. That's the thing about Rivals, is that all the main, like Claire and Absa are the two mains I have in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't touch them, those kind of archetypes in Smash. Like, I'd Game and Watch all day long. Ryu and Ken all day
Pika,
long.
Mewtwo, Zelda?
No. I hate all three of those characters in Smash, but you make them into one character in Rivals, and I love them. So it's that much different. I can appreciate it for it. That's why I'm still in the community now. Because I picked up on the appreciation of the game just from me doing weird stuff with Olympia in early stages of her development.
I imagine you've had to learn a little bit more about the intricacies of the game that weren't readily apparent. Things like whiff lag and the unique mechanics that Rivals of Aether has, as opposed to Smash. That kind of brings us into a very nifty segue into how you feel about Workshop as a competitive scene. And I say this because we, as the Extended Workshop, have been trying to carve out like a competitive niche. And I know you said you don't really come from a competitive background. How does that, like, as a creator, how do you feel about trying to take Workshop and custom characters a little bit more seriously?
I've always been an advocate for that stuff. Not just like looking back and like watching old movie videos and watching Fightcade and Smash Brother tournaments every now and then. Like it's always the spectacle of it is what I like the most. The only reason why I haven't gotten into the competitive side myself is because the reactions aren't up there. Like I don't have enough actions per minute, as they may say, actions per second or whatever. I don't have that up there. Yeah. That's the only reason why I'm not in it. But I do support the fact that like Workshop Rivals of Aether is getting a competitive scene. I think that's like it's a great idea and also a no-brainer at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got like a lot of pushback off of that idea initially because there's a ton of people in the rival scene, especially like top players, that think Workshop is pretty much, that's just for fun. That's all it should be for. Like there's people that I've spoken with that just said, no, just leave it alone. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that,
I think from that point of view, because I also understand it too, it's a brand new thing. Mm-hmm. Like, every video game has that kind of shift where, like, a new entry of something that has all these characters everyone knows and loves and masters, and then, like, 20 in the case of Rivals Workshop, damn near hundreds of characters show up, and it's like, I don't want it. I just want Raster. Like, let me have Raster. Like, I understand how that's like it's jarring for competitive players because they throw in a lot of time into these characters and like learning this meta and matchups and all that. And now they have to
essentially a new game in the same engine at this point.
Pretty much. And also it's kind of the gut reaction of, is every character just gonna be Ronald? Like, I don't want to deal with that.
Absolutely. I think that was definitely the impression that most people, and that Olympia helped subvert, that most people had of Workshop, was that it's going to be nothing but Peter Griffins and The Simpsons and, and people porting their, furry dragon characters into this game, and it's all going to be relatively terrible quality. I think it's interesting how many like people that are actually really striving for an upper level of quality in this. Like there's a lot out there on the Workshop, but I mean we have a good 20 or so mods that are really solid quality, and it's just growing anymore. Like we have our list of 15 right now for our legal roster for the upcoming tournament on Saturday. We're expecting that to double for the one in January. Like it's absolutely insane, and we really appreciate people like you that are coming out and just giving us these awesome characters. And I imagine it's going to be pretty cool for you to get that feedback when somebody is like, "Hey, I'm an Olympia main for life." That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, like there's a lot of niches in Rivals of Aether that isn't covered. Um, there's zoner characters where there isn't like zoner characters.
Hmm.
There's not a goat with a gun, for example. Like there's these
Yeah,
characters that these ideas and characters that hasn't really been introduced, and then in some cases, there's like archetypes that have been introduced, but they're way more flushed out. Like they're more like funneled into that one gimmick or that one thing that they do, and it's great to watch. Um, I'm just gonna throw this out here. The reason why Olympia's quality is that high is because I flex at any given moment. When it comes to pixel art, I'm sorry. This may sound like really pretentious or whatever, but like I came to flex, honestly. Like I wanted to show my skills off,
and
and
I think you've done that.
Yeah, I'm glad that I got the reaction that I did, or even any reaction. If it could have been negative, it was like, well, you saw her, like,
Yeah.
like that.
Look at all
just
these
great.
people that hate my baby. The pivoting a little bit from rivals, and I think this kind of lends into it a little bit because of what you just said. You as a creator, how long have you been doing this? Just pixel art or art in general?
I keep losing track on where I am on pixel art. I think when I got started, it was about 7 years ago. And I'm gonna be on record that like my first like 3 years was me recoloring Sonic sprites. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm ashamed of the product I've made, but I'm not ashamed of my start.
Looking back on any first things that anybody's done, I'm sure everybody's like, no, let's not. Let's bury that.
But as far as like drawing or whatever, as soon as I was like shown a Dragon Ball Z comic when I was like a wee babby, like back in my hometown and all that, I've been drawing for a long ass time. It only started like fine tuned to pixel art after I got out of high school, which was a while ago now. And I've just been playing it by ear. Like this isn't. No one's taught me how to do any of this shit. Like it's been an uphill struggle. I know everybody who sees Olympia made by Sprite Star Zero on the workshop. It's like, oh man, this man must have like had like a mentor and all this stuff. Like he must have gone through the gauntlet and teachers and people helping him out. No, like my first 5 out of 7 years was just me in front of a computing fucking around. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It only became to fine tune once I actually bridged the gap between these pixels that I'm moving into an animation is animation. And I know this is jarring. I know this, like, you say it out loud, and it's like, well, duh. Like, animation is in the sentence. Why are you shocked about that? You don't know how many times I've said that to people, and people's mind were just blown. Like, you're making you're making multiple drawings into something that moves, no matter if it's on paper, on like Toon Boom or Adobe Animate, or even just an MS Paint, like how I got in it. Like, you're making animation.
So there's a period of time that you were animating without realizing that's exactly what you were doing?
Yeah, that was the longest time. I was just like making a collection of sprites and just making it into my character, and then like even when like putting it into like an animated image, I just saw the sprite as it is, and it's like, oh, this looks like it could be in a video game or something like that. It didn't click to me until like halfway through college. Which was like,
what do you mean I'm animating?
3 years.
I just draw a bunch of sprites and like put them together, and it looks like they're moving. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was like 3 years ago out of my 7. Like, this clicked for me fairly recently, and after that, I like went to like looking at different animation principles and learning about all that stuff, and just like learning from like how they did stuff on paper and just converted it into pixels. And truth be told, that's how a lot of old school games were done. If any fighting game enthusiasts out there, if the Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, all those animations made on paper. They just digitized it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those people, they hired masters at that time to make that game. And it shows. Like, it really does.
Yeah. It's a beautiful game. Can't look at,
and like,
really hype moments from that game and not just marvel at how gorgeous it holds up. It's even today, really.
Yeah, it really does. And like, that's kind of just how my evolution of an artist has been. I've been in the pixel art game for a little bit. I've joined a couple of dev teams. Most of them didn't see the light of day. I joined in more. Experience is experience, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say Olympia is the most visibility that you've had on your back?
Oh, definitely. I can't really remember a time where, like, my name got out there that much off of a character that I made. I know my name has got out there a good bit on a couple of pieces of pixel art I've done, like, relatively recently. But that's just fan art, though.
Yeah.
Like, up until this point, I thought I was only going to be known as the guy that made the Samus Aran pixel art that one time. Like, don't get me wrong, beautiful piece of art.
Bucket, you know.
Like, don't get me wrong, beautiful piece because I made it recently, and like, amazing work of art in my opinion. But like, fan art, I thought it was, if I'm going to get my name out there, I just need to make fan art, and that's it. I want to make my own stuff, but no one's going to look at it. And then I make Olympia, and everybody's just glued to that shit. Like, it's so different. I'm looking at the internet on, like, a different, like, spectrum at this point. Like, it's so...
Your original idea is now valued by the masses. Yeah, it's got to be a shift.
Yeah, it's also extremely hard. That's why it's so jarring for a lot of artists out there. It's like, what do you mean people like my ideas?
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of, like, reaction, and then you try to deliver on it the best way you can. What I'm trying to do.
So, like, you have showed a little bit about what's after Olympia, and I want to really... I've asked Ruby this, too. Is this something that you plan to do indefinitely for Rivals, or is it just going to be, like, a one and done, one or two? Is this like your main hobby now, just modding Rivals of Aether characters? I mean, that's got you this much publicity on it, but there's, that could definitely serve as an advertisement for your commissions. So there's some sort of future there, but I don't know. I've
been told by a couple of friends of mine, after they saw, like, a couple of animations of Olympia, it's like, just commission that shit, man. Like, that was, like, the first thing I heard about from, like, people I talked to about Olympia. It was like, once you're done with that, open up commissions. People pay good money for this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, it's nice and all. Like, I like money. Like, it's cool, but, like, I'm playing it all by ear as far as, like, Rivals modding goes. I want to keep doing it. It's a fun experience. But, like,
a lot of work.
It's kind of just... It's kind of a thing that I do as a pixel artist where I, like, move from one thing to another completely different thing and then move back to it after a little bit. Like, I'm still going to have my foot in Rivals of Aether, like, modding workshop stuff. Like, I already have, like, a character, but I'm taking my time on how this character's going to play because I don't know what the fuck he's going to do. But there's also a project that I've been working on that's like 2 to 3 years overdue, and I want to get that at least halfway done to, like, a stopping point before I come back to this. Because, like, soon, once I'm done with college, I'm going to have relatively, like, more free time for this. So, we'll see.
Yeah,
I know Olympia is going to be here to stay. I'm gonna keep adding stuff for it, making all types of art and stuff. So I'm riding this. I'm beating this dead horse.
It's all that portfolio, man. You got it going now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Olympia is very impressive, and I imagine since you're developing for a game, or that might be something that you have your sights on in the future.
Yeah.
Potentially being picked up by an indie studio or something like that.
That's always been my dream because, like, where I'm from, we don't have anything for video game design or animation or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Olympia as like a part of my portfolio has just been a breath of fresh air. Best case scenario, I work for like an animation company. Worst case scenario, I'll work for a dev team at an indie company. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to sit here and expect things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be surprised rather than disappointed about if things doesn't happen. So
yeah, it's a good outlook. So you've got this sort of project that you're going to be working on. We've talked about how you feel about the competitive scene growing within Rivals. We've talked about Olympia. We've talked about you a little bit. I guess we're pretty much done. Unless you have anything else you want to say.
In closing, for everyone listening and watching this video, whatever idea you got, throw it out there, but at least think on it.
Oh yeah.
I kind of got lucky on Olympia, and I just went on gut reaction on how she was going to look and how she was going to play, and then thought about it after the fact when I wanted to like refine it. But like, work on impulse, but think on it. That will be my closing words to it.
I guess my closing for you at this point is I've seen a lot of talk around this particular topic, and not many people know how to feel about it. And throughout the rest of the internet, when people are doing something that caters to a very specific and niche audience that doesn't really have much longevity beyond that audience, they set up a Patreon. And people are very divided on how they feel about setting up a Patreon for Rivals of Aether modding. Would that be something that you would ever consider?
If I'm gonna, I've had a Patreon before for my own personal work, and I took it down because I couldn't work the way that I wanted to work on it thanks to college. I don't know about like a Rivals of Aether specific Patreon, but if I was to bring back my Patreon, I would definitely have it be a portion of it.
Yeah.
I
people that just feel uncomfortable with making money off of somebody else's game, which is understandable.
I mean, I'm quite sure that Godwa got paid a good little bit for making all the animations and stuff. I'm quite sure that wasn't just a free job.
Yeah, definitely not.
Things just cost money nowadays. I'm not planning on doing much with it, but if it does happen, I'm gonna shout it out to the heavens. That's all I'm gonna leave that on. Cliffhanger the fuck out of this.
Well, Spar, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad. Thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me.
All right, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. You have a wonderful rest of your night.
All right, see you, everybody.
Take it easy, guys.